Hey guys, what's up? Green Films Official here. Let's talk The Shining. The Shining is an absolutely classic film directed by one of the most celebrated directors of all time, Stanley Kubrick. It's adapted from Stephen King's novel of the same name and follows the Torrance family, who look after the Overlook Hotel over the winter. However, Jack Torrance, the man of the family, quickly goes insane after seeing paranormal stuff and decides to murder his family. So, fun. It's an absolutely haunting and masterful movie. It's hard to think of any other horror movie that tops it. It has been a massive influence on other works across the years, and it's been referenced in media from all types. If you ask me, this movie is a horror masterpiece, and it understands what makes horror so effective. Every component of this movie works in some way, and it makes for one of the most chilling and memorable experiences of my life. It is truly a beautiful nightmare. The film lets you know what it's going to be like just with the music that plays over the opening credits. Is what I just played the creepiest piece of movie music ever? No. But believe me, music wise, this movie's just getting started with that track. And besides, I think that track is still a little creepy. It's so not in your face, and it's more creepy in a subtle way. As for the rest of the music in this movie, it's like an evil symphony of violins and. So, long story short, the music's incredible. Do you know what else is incredible about this movie? The acting. The acting here is so well done. It's so good. This may sound like hyperbole, but I think it's some of the best acting I've ever seen. Especially this scene that I'm showing on screen right now. You really get this sense that Jack Nicholson is this deranged lunatic, and the actress for Wendy is like actually terrified. It's so impressive. Even the kid who plays Danny Torrance was amazing. Like, that kid has only ever been in two movies, The Shining and Doctor Sleep, and I can't for the life of me understand why. He's so good. I'll just show you this short clip and you'll understand just how good the acting is.
You are concerned about him.
Yes.
And are you concerned about me?
Of course I am.
Of course you are. Ever thought about my responsibilities?
Oh, Rick, what are you talking about?
Have you ever had a single moment's thought about my responsibilities? Have you ever thought for a single solitary moment about my responsibilities to my employers? Has it ever occurred to you that I have agreed to look after the Overlook Hotel until May the 1st? Does it matter to you at all that the owners have placed their complete confidence and trust in me, and that I have signed a letter of agreement, a contract, in which I have accepted that responsibility? Do you have the slightest idea what a moral and ethical principle is, do you? Has it ever occurred to you what would happen to my future if I were to fail to live up to my responsibilities? Has it ever occurred to you? Has it?
It's so incredible. Like, how could it be this good? It's a very beautifully shot movie. Some of the shots that just stick in my mind are characters running outside of the Overlook. It's a very competently shot movie. Another great shot that sticks in my mind is like Danny on his little bike thing going through the hallways of the Overlook. They're such simple shots, but they're so effective. I also love the Overlook itself. It's such an effective setting, and if you're paying attention, you can notice that sometimes the structure doesn't really make sense. Like there'll be a hallway that leads to nowhere, and it shouldn't seem like it should be there. And it sort of plays with the idea that the Overlook is like this nightmarish hellscape like area that you can just get permanently lost in. I also love Delbert Grady, who was the ghost of the previous caretaker of the hotel. The character of Stuart Ullman tells Jack at the start of the movie this story about how the previous caretaker went insane and killed his family. And once you get to this point where this guy's helping out Jack and you realize it's Grady, it's such a subtly terrifying scene. And the actor who plays Grady is so great. And so that's The Shining, in my opinion, a horror masterpiece. It understands what makes horror so great, and it's so unnerving. The music, the acting, the cinematography, it's just so well made, and it's definitely worth one watch. Although this movie has so much going on and has so much discussion around it, you can easily watch it 10 times and still find new things. Really, my video was just scratching the surface. I am interested in doing an in-depth analysis on this movie at some point. I think it would be really interesting to discuss. Stanley Kubrick has made tons of great movies, and this is just one of them, and I would like to take a look at some of them. So if you guys would like to see that, let me know in the comments. The Shining is an iconic, beautiful, haunting, epic masterpiece, and I love it to death. My only real gripe with it is at the end, Wendy can see ghosts despite not having the shine for some reason. It's really weird. But hey, I'm willing to look past that because the rest of the movie is so masterfully made. If you haven't seen this movie yet, what are you doing watching this video? Get off and watch it. Watch it 10 times. I don't care. It's an amazing movie and it must be seen, damn it. Just come back after you're done. Please. So anyways, that was The Shining. Pretty great movie, right? Hey, wasn't that sequel that came out in 2019? I believe it was called, Doctor Sleep? Doctor Sleep follows Danny Torrance as an adult who teams up with a young girl named Abra to defeat evil shine-eating vampires. This movie had a near impossible task. It had to be a good sequel to a movie revered as one of, if not the best horror movie of all time. Given those odds, this movie could have easily crashed and burned, but by all odds, it turned out to be pretty good actually. It's not like it's gonna change cinema at some point or anything, but to say it's bad is a bit of a stretch. It's pretty well made, actually. At the very least, it's a very gorgeous looking movie that's well shot. If there's any reason to see this movie, it's Ewan McGregor's performance as Danny Torrance. He's so great, and he absolutely kicks ass at the role. The child acting isn't amazing, but it's better than it is in most movies, so it gets a pass just on that alone. I thought it was a very great conclusion to the story of The Shining. It was a very satisfying way to wrap things up, in my opinion. In a way, this movie felt a bit more cinematic than your typical horror movie. It felt like it had a wider scope. It didn't really, but it felt a bit like that. Some people have criticized the scene where they go back to the Overlook as just a bunch of, oh, remember The Shining? But I personally don't feel that way at all. I felt as if they were very satisfying callbacks, and it felt like they were completing Danny Torrance's character arc. Like he was facing his fears head on in order to defeat Rose the Hat, who is the main villain of this movie. That being said, everything that takes place outside of the Overlook doesn't really feel especially shining to me. It feels like it can be its own separate thing. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it feels a bit different from The Shining. Hey, let's talk about those shine-eating vampires, huh? The True Knot. I really liked them. I liked the interesting perspective the film took, where the True Knot, the vampires, they're kind of scared too, and the main reason they're eating the shine is to survive. However, they still feel threatening because of the things they do to consume the shine. Obviously, the main one is supposed to be Rose the Hat, so how is she? Is she a good villain? Yeah, she's alright. She's pretty menacing. Although, she doesn't really compare to, say, Jack Torrance or Grady from the previous movie. But I think she's still interesting enough. She sort of doesn't really feel like a horror movie villain, if that makes sense. She sort of feels like she's more of a thriller villain, like a supernatural thriller. But when she's scary, she can be pretty scary. I especially like this scene that I'm showing right now. It's sort of like a parallel between Wendy climbing up the stairs with Jack coming after her, and I thought that was really cool. I do want to talk about a spoiler related to Rose the Hat. So if you don't want any spoilers for this movie because you haven't seen it yet, go to the timestamp currently on screen. Alright, let's do this. I thought Rose's death was very cool and creative. It looks amazing and it's very cathartic to see, especially after all her child murdering. And the ghosts just ripping her to pieces and feeding off of her shine is ruthless but cool. I also love the one-liner delivered by Danny.
What's in those? Something special, huh?
They're not special. They're starving.
That's enough spoilers now. Alright, so that was Rose the Hat. Pretty cool villain. But you know how I said she felt less like a horror movie villain, more like a supernatural thriller villain? Well, that's sort of like how the whole movie feels. Less of a horror and more of a supernatural thriller. It starts to feel more like a horror once they get into the Overlook, but that's when the film's only got 30 minutes to go out of 2.5 hours. I'm not saying I was never scared by the movie, but but yeah, all I'm saying is it just didn't really feel like too much of a horror. So if you're looking for just a straight up horror movie, you're not really gonna get that with Doctor Sleep. You're more gonna get a conclusion to this story that's already been set up. It's definitely a movie intended for fans of The Shining. But I'm a fan of The Shining, and I got exactly what I wanted out of Doctor Sleep. So if you're a Shining fan too, go and see it. You'll really enjoy it, I'm sure. If for nothing else, I've said, watch Doctor Sleep for this line.
All right, child. All right.
Okay, okay, that line never gets old. Alright, so that's Doctor Sleep. Not as good as The Shining, and I don't think it's gonna change cinema or anything, but it's still worth a watch. I've been Green Films Official. Thank you so much for watching the video, and check out both movies if you're interested now. I think they're really good. Bye!